So I'm not sure if you've ever been in this situation. I know that in my past career I have. I've worked in situations where the environment is actually quite toxic, and there's a concept around normalising chaos. Now, there's a difference between being busy and chaos. Chaos is complete disorder and confusion, and sometimes in certain cultures even, that is used to deal with situations that are incredibly harrowing and difficult. It's almost a coping mechanism, but like any coping mechanism, if it's overused, it becomes less effective. And that's sometimes when you hear people saying in an organisation, well, that's just the way it is. That's the way we do things around there. It's almost an acceptance of a certain culture. It doesn't mean that culture's working. And working in complete chaos means that everything's disorganised, you're unable to prioritise, you might feel like a headless chicken and not sure where you're supposed to start. I've seen it, as I say, in my own career, and I've seen it in other organisations, and it just leads to massive tensions and frustrations in teams, accusations, toxic behaviours. Why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done that? Now, to a certain extent, if you're working in a new team or there's a new department or a new structure coming into place, there is a certain amount of storming and norming and then performing. What that means is when a team comes together, there can sometimes be a bit of confusion, a little bit of disorganisation until the team normalises and understands each other, communicates well with each other, and then starts to function properly. And then it really starts to perform. And then sometimes another change can occur with that team where that process is repeated. So that is fairly normal. But to be somewhere where that's just the way we do things here, or kind of get on with it, that may not be a sort of work environment you want to work in, and it can become quite toxic. So the key is really not to allow chaos to become the normal way of doing business, because if you do it, you've got no bandwidth to anticipate any other issues or problems that are going to come into your organisation. You're sort of working on a fight or flight mentality. There's no anticipation of anything that might come in. Everyone's at capacity. Nobody's got the opportunity to look at the big picture. So if you find yourself either leading a team that's working in that environment and you're not getting the results or performance you want, or you're working in an environment and you've noticed that chaos is the order of the day, maybe it's time to sort of change your career or address that with your line manager. Or even perhaps on your day-to-day life, perhaps you're so overwhelmed you can't see the wood for the trees. Then it's time to do something about it. Now, specifically within the work environment, I would suggest really taking an audit of what's going on in your organisation. What communications channels do you have? How do you communicate with your teams? What are the recurring crises, issues, or circumstances that keep occurring? You could almost do a traffic light system where you plot out what those issues are, and then how might you want to respond to those? How might you want to create a short-term team to deal with a particular issue? Or is this an ongoing theme in your business, or an opportunity to turn something into an offering for a customer? So those are a couple of tips where I definitely recommend you pull your teams together and workshop through, how do you feel about working in this chaos? What can be done to improve the chaos? Are there systems and processes we need to introduce? Are people's roles really clear? Have we set clear objectives? Are there customers we're working with that perhaps we need to change the relationship we have with them? There can be all sorts of different root causes, but the key is to address them, acknowledge them, not enter into the toxic blaming situation. It's just where you are at the moment, but not allow that kind of chaotic culture to become the norm, because otherwise I think you sort of can't see the wood for the trees. I say that a lot because you're so busy doing and reacting, you're unable to really take a longer term view of your business, your team, or even your own personal life, to be honest. So, as I said, a lot of cultures will use this, a lot of cultures where there's a lot of difficult things going on in society. It's a coping mechanism. but a coping mechanism can only last for so long. So if you recognise that somewhere in your career, in your work life, or perhaps even personally, you're normalising chaos, then get in touch with me and we can work through some different solutions to help you deconstruct that and find a much healthier way of organising yourself moving forward.